All right, welcome to our explainer. Today, we're jumping into a criminal case that kicks off with what looks like the perfect crime. I mean, a high-tech heist so clean, so flawless, it left investigators completely scratching their heads. But as we're about to see, perfect is a tricky word, and even the most brilliant plans can have one tiny, fatal flaw. So I want you to think about this for a second. This was the exact puzzle facing the investigators. You've got this state-of-the-art vault, right? The kind you see in movies, basically impenetrable. And somehow, it's been breached. Millions in jewels are just gone. And the security system? Totally silent. It never made a peep. This wasn't just a robbery. On paper, this was literally impossible. So, let's set the scene. We're at a super high-security auction house, a place that's supposed to be an absolute fortress. But one morning, the staff walks in and finds something that just completely defies logic. Get this, the crime scene itself was like a work of art in criminal precision. The thieves came in through the ceiling, somehow navigating laser grids like they weren't even there. Not a single alarm was triggered, and none were disabled. But here's the really weird part. They ignored shelves packed with other valuable jewels to steal one very specific collection. Now that screams two things. One, they had inside knowledge, and two, they were after a very specific price. But here's the thing about perfect crimes. They're a total myth. Why? Because they're planned by imperfect people. No matter how careful you are, you always leave something behind. For the Criminal Investigation Department, or CID, the real work started right here, hunting for that one tiny detail the thieves completely overlooked. So, in the middle of this perfectly clean, surgically precise crime scene, investigators find their first break. It's a tiny, fractured gemstone, a Gomez stone. You know, it looks like just a random piece of debris, but in a vault that is otherwise spotless, that's not just garbage. That's the first thread you pull to unravel the whole thing. And this next clue, it basically confirmed their suspicion of an inside job. The key to the security room, the one with all the blueprints, was found with soap residue on it. It's this classic, super low-tech trick. You press a key into a bar of soap and bam, you've got a perfect mold for a copy. It's simple, it's clever, and it's all the proof they needed that this fortress was breached from the inside. So that tiny little stone led investigators straight to an employee named Agamanyu. And when they questioned him, he had this story all ready to go. He claims his Gomez stone ring had broken a couple of days earlier. But a quick call to some local jewelers just completely blew his story apart. The broken piece from the crime scene was a perfect match for a ring being repaired for, you guessed it, Mr. Agamanyu. He just shot to the top of their suspect list. Just as CID is feeling like they're closing in on a pretty straightforward inside job, the case takes a really sharp, really dark turn. What started as a high-tech robbery was about to become a full-blown murder investigation. So investigators find out that a critical 30-minute chunk of CCTV footage is just gone. And it happens to be the exact window when that key could have been copied. Suspicion immediately falls on Security Officer Swati because she was the only one with access to the key during that time. When CID goes to talk to her, her nervous behavior is a dead giveaway, and she just bolts, leading them on a chase straight to her local gym. Okay, so just as the team has her cornered, thinking they're finally about to get some answers, Swati just collapses. She was dead before she even hit the floor. The one person who could connect all the dots in this case had just been permanently silenced. And the forensic report was just chilling. Swati was killed by something called Dimitri, a rare, incredibly fast-acting poison that's also notoriously difficult to trace. So yeah, this wasn't just about stolen jewels anymore. This was a conspiracy, and somebody was willing to kill to keep it a secret. With their main lead dead, the case seemed to hit a total brick wall. But then, Swati's autopsy revealed a really bizarre medical clue that had absolutely nothing to do with poison, and it sent the investigation spinning in a completely new direction. Swati's X-ray showed something shocking, a skeletal condition called rep spond. Now, it's a specific kind of stress fracture on the spine that you get from repeated, extreme bending and contorting, something you would almost never see in a security guard. It's the kind of injury you see in people who do incredible physical things, like professional dancers or circus acrobats. And all of a sudden, the impossible agility needed to get past those laser grids started to make a whole lot of sense. So this new lead sends CID right back to the gym. An instructor remembers Swati meeting with two men he described as looking like theater actors. Based on that description, the police whip up some sketches. And not long after, a tip comes in about two guys trying to sell a huge collection of jewels. CID sets up a sting, and the sellers, Ketan and Naveen, were a perfect match for the sketches. They had found their acrobats. Under questioning, the acrobats folded pretty fast. They admitted it. They were hired guns, brought in for their unique physical skills. But they said they never met the mastermind. Their only contact was their handler, Swathi, who was now dead. So the muscle was caught, but the brain of the whole operation was still a complete ghost. So the case was so close, yet so far from being solved. Their key was a woman who couldn't talk and two acrobats who didn't know anything. The final breakthrough ended up coming from the most unlikely place you could imagine, a piece of trash thrown away in a moment of pure anger. A waiter at the hotel where Swati was probably poisoned actually remembered seeing her. He said she was on the phone having this intense argument about money, and in a fit of rage, she just threw an envelope on the ground. Later, that same waiter fished it out of the trash for CID, and inside, a CD snapped clean in half. Well, this broken CD was the final critical piece of the puzzle. The forensics lab painstakingly put it back together, and guess what was on it? The missing CCTV footage, and it was absolutely damning. It shows Abhimanyu just 2 hours before the robbery with that Gomez stone ring on his finger, perfectly intact. His alibi was a total lie. He was the mastermind. But hold on, there was one last twist. When CID confronted the head of security, a man named Palash, he just broke down. He hadn't been a willing partner in this at all. Abhimanyu had kidnapped his wife and was blackmailing him, forcing him to help with the heist. Palash wasn't a traitor. He was a victim. Okay, so with Abhimanyu finally unmasked as the mastermind, his motive totally clear, and his entire conspiracy just collapsing around him, all that was left was the final takedown. The team tracked Abhimanyu to this remote warehouse where he was holding Palash's wife hostage. After a super tense standoff, CID moved in, arresting Abhimanyu and his accomplices. The hostage was rescued, totally safe, and every last piece of the stolen jewelry was recovered. The impossible heist was officially over. So you see how a crime that started with a silent alarm and a laser-cut door just spiraled into this incredibly complex web of blackmail, poison, and ultimately murder? It's a pretty stark reminder of how quickly greed can escalate into something so much darker. And that's our explainer for today. I think this case really shows that the perfect crime is a total myth, not because of technology or amazing police work, but because of the one thing no mastermind can ever truly control: human nature. A little bit of ego in a lie, a flash of anger that makes you throw away the one clue that brings you down. In the end, it's never the grand plan that fails. It's the small, messy, unpredictable human details that bring the whole thing crashing down. What do you think was the single biggest mistake? Let me know. Thanks for watching.